Have you ever stopped to think that what you say might be holding back your career, your relationships, and even your happiness? The truth is, truly intelligent people never fall into these verbal traps. And if you're still saying any of these phrases, it's time to change now. In this video, I'm going to reveal the 10 things an intelligent person would never say, and why these phrases destroy opportunities every single day. If you're between 18 and 40 years old and want to stand out in your work, personal life, and goals, stay until the end, because just one wrong phrase could be keeping you from reaching your full potential. Don't make the same mistakes 95% of people make. Click on the video now and discover how to transform your communication to achieve everything you want. Have you ever said one of these phrases without realizing it? The answer might surprise you. Time is running out, and your growth can't. Wait, watch now and change your game. Why is this urgent? Because the world rewards those who think and speak differently. Don't get left behind. The video starts now. I know everything about this. Smart people understand that knowledge is infinite and there's always more to learn. This might be one of the most dangerous phrases anyone can say. And precisely for that reason, it's a phrase that truly intelligent people never use. The statement, "I know everything about this," is a trap of intellectual vanity. It assumes knowledge can be finalized, as if there were a point where nothing more can be discovered, questioned, or improved. However, the true mark of intelligence isn't absolute certainty, but awareness of one's own ignorance. The wisdom of great master Socrates, the Greek philosopher who shaped the foundation of Western thought, was known for an emblematic phrase, "All I know is that I know nothing." This wasn't false modesty. It was the confession of someone who understood that the more we learn, the more we realize how much there still is to learn. Awareness of ignorance is what opens the door to true wisdom and what prevents us from being paralyzed by arrogance. Albert Einstein, one of the greatest scientific minds in modern history, also said, "The more I learn, the more I realize how much I don't know." Even as the creator of the theory of relativity, a landmark in scientific history, Einstein maintained the mindset of a perpetual student. He knew the universe was too complex to be contained by a single mind, which is why he valued doubt, curiosity, and intellectual humility. Science, as a constantly evolving field, human knowledge is always transforming. Science isn't an unchanging dogma, but a continuous investigation. Yesterday's absolute truths become tomorrow's glaring mistakes. Take the geocentric model, for example. For centuries, people believed Earth was the center of the universe. It wasn't until bold thinkers like Copernicus and Galileo challenged this absolute knowledge that science took an evolutionary leap. What would have happened if they had accepted the idea that we already knew everything? The same applies today in every field. Professionals who say, "I already know everything about this," quickly become obsolete. In contrast, those who keep an open, questioning, and updated mind remain relevant, and often they lead. Real-world examples of this mindset. Bill Gates, Microsoft's founder, is a compulsive reader. He reads about 50 books a year and has repeatedly stated that constant learning is the key to his success. Even as one of the richest men in the world, he continues studying new fields like biotech, energy, and education. Elon Musk, known for leading Tesla and SpaceX, learned about rockets by reading technical books and asking questions. He once said, "You can learn anything, just devour knowledge and stay relentlessly curious." Oprah Winfrey attributes her personal and professional growth to learning from everything and everyone. She says every person has something to teach, and that active listening is one of the greatest tools for growth. The danger of closing your mind, saying, "I know everything about this," is like shutting the door to new possibilities. It denies the chance for evolution. It interrupts the natural flow of learning. Worse, this phrase can make you difficult to work with because it conveys arrogance, rigidity, and a lack of humility. Nobody wants to exchange ideas with someone who thinks they already know it all. How to adopt an open-minded approach. Be as curious as a child, ask more questions, observe more, read more, never stop studying. Smart people don't need to know everything, but they must always want to learn. Practice active listening. Even when you already know the subject, listen again. There might be a new perspective, a nuance you haven't considered. Challenge your own certainties. When you think you know everything about something, ask yourself, what if I'm wrong? That simple question can open massive doors for growth. Surround yourself with people better than you in some area. Truly wise people aren't afraid to appear ignorant. On the contrary, they're comfortable admitting what they don't know, because they know that's how growth happens. Conclusion saying, "I know everything about this," is an invisible barrier that sabotages your personal and professional evolution. The greatest geniuses in history understood that true intelligence lies in constant learning, not in pretending to know it all. The more you learn, the more capable you become at innovating, leading, connecting with others, and transforming your reality. So the question remains, are you open to keep learning, or have you convinced yourself you don't need to anymore? 2. That's impossible. Instead, they ask, how could we make this possible? This is one of those phrases that kills creativity, progress, and personal achievement. When someone says, "That's impossible," they're putting a period where there should be a comma. They're ending a conversation that could have been the beginning of an innovative solution. Truly intelligent people avoid this kind of limiting thinking. Instead of declaring something impossible, they ask, how could we make this possible? This shift in perspective seems simple, but it's powerful. It activates parts of the brain linked to creativity, logical reasoning, and problem solving. When we say that's impossible, our brains shut down. But when we ask, how could we make this possible? Our minds switch to exploration mode, searching for paths, accessing internal and external resources. The legacy of those who defied impossible. If great figures in history had believed in "that's impossible," humanity would still be stuck. In the past, Thomas Edison, for example, was told countless times that creating a functional electric light bulb was impossible. He tested over 1,000 materials before succeeding. When asked if he felt like a failure after so many unsuccessful attempts, he replied, "I didn't fail 1,000 times. I discovered 1,000 ways that don't work." That's the mindset that turns obstacles into stepping stones. Nelson Mandela, after spending 27 years in prison, fighting apartheid in South Africa, said, "It always seems impossible until it's done." Mandela faced a racist and violent system, yet emerged from prison not with hatred, but with vision. He believed in reconciliation, peace, and justice, even when the world said it was impossible. The Wright brothers, who built the first airplane, defied the common belief that flying was for birds and dreams. In 1903, they flew for 12 seconds, enough to change the course of humanity. Before them, renowned scientists had declared it impossible. But they asked, what if it's not? Why challenging impossible matters? Because everything that's normal today was once considered impossible. Have you ever thought about that? Communicating in real time with someone on the other side of the planet? Impossible, they said. Today, we make video calls in seconds. Organ transplants, impossible. Now they save thousands of lives. AI generating text, images, and assisting in creative projects. Impossible, and yet here we are. So what really separates the possible from the impossible isn't reality itself. It's the mindset you bring to it. Modern examples of this mindset: Elon Musk, for instance, embodies the question, how can we make this possible? He founded SpaceX with the goal of colonizing Mars. Many called him crazy, but in 2020, the company became the first private entity to send humans to space in partnership with NASA. Neil Mohan, CEO of YouTube, has stated in interviews that the platform's growth stems precisely from the what-if approach. This question opens doors, pushes boundaries, and drives innovation. Marie Curie, the first woman to win a Nobel Prize and the only one to win in two different fields, physics and chemistry, discovered two chemical elements at a time. When women weren't even allowed formal education in many countries, they said it was impossible until she proved them wrong. How to adopt this approach in practice? Challenge the limits you impose on yourself. When you think this won't work, pause and reframe. What's stopping me? Or what would be the first step? Surround yourself with people who think differently. They expand your perspective and reveal possibilities you might not see alone. Study stories of breakthroughs and innovation. The more you see real examples of impossible achievements, the more natural it becomes for your mind to accept that other paths exist. Most importantly, don't wait until you feel ready. The phrase, "that's impossible," often hides a fear, the fear of trying and failing. But the truth is, no one who accomplished great things started out knowing how to do everything. They started with a vision and a powerful question, what if? Conclusion, the phrase, "that's impossible," is a break disguised as realism. Intelligent people don't ignore challenges, but they also don't use them as excuses to stop. They question, investigate, adapt, test, fail, and try again. Remember, today's impossible could be tomorrow's norm, if you have the courage to try. The game-changing question is, how could we make this possible? I don't need to listen to others. Intelligence includes the humility to recognize that other perspectives add value. This phrase is the perfect portrait of self-sabotage disguised as self-sufficiency. When someone declares, "I don't need to listen to others," what they're really saying is, "I'd rather stay within my own limits than expand my horizons with someone else's help." But the truth is, no truly intelligent mind grows in isolation. Listening is one of the most underestimated pillars of personal, professional, and spiritual growth. To listen is more than just hearing sounds. It's about understanding, learning, and evolving. Intelligence begins with humility. The idea that only the weak listen to others is an illusion born from ego. And ego, no matter how loud it speaks, doesn't take anyone very far. Truly intelligent people understand that every human being carries a unique worldview. No one has all the answers. Even a simple comment from an unexpected source might hold the missing piece to your puzzle. Socrates, one of history's greatest philosophers, famously said, "All I know is that I know nothing." This wasn't a declaration of ignorance, but of wisdom. It was an acknowledgement that there's always something new to learn and that it often comes from others. The Dalai Lama, a globally respected spiritual leader, puts it this way: when you talk, you're only repeating what you already know. But if you listen, you may learn something new. This is the essence of intelligent humility, active listening as a tool for expansion. Examples of great minds who know how to listen. Steve Jobs, though known for his intensity, was a strategic listener. He surrounded himself with creative minds and encouraged heated debates in Apple meetings. Jobs knew genius doesn't flourish in isolation, but in the clash of ideas. Oprah Winfrey, one of the most influential communicators on the planet, built her career on deep listening. She turned interviews into spaces for healing, learning, and revelation. She listens with attention and empathy, and that's why she connects with millions. Barack Obama, during his presidency, was known for gathering advisors with opposing views. He believed hearing all sides was essential before making decisions. This didn't make him insecure, it made him wise. Ray Dalio, one of the world's most successful investors, wrote in Principles about the concept of thoughtful disagreement. For him, listening to different viewpoints is the key to robust decision-making. At his firm, Bridgewater, everyone, from interns to executives, has a voice. Why? Because great ideas can come from anywhere. Why listening is essential expands your worldview. When you listen to people with different experiences, backgrounds, and beliefs, you gain new angles on the same problem. Prevents unnecessary mistakes. Often, someone has already faced what you're about to encounter. Ignoring their advice means repeating avoidable struggles. Strengthens human connections. People who feel heard tend to trust more, collaborate more, and give more of themselves. Listening is also a leadership tool, disarms the ego. The simple act of listening attentively is an exercise in humility, and humility is the foundation of real growth. But listening doesn't mean agreeing important clarification. Listening isn't obeying. You can hear ideas, reflect on them, and still make your own decision. Wisdom lies in considering before dismissing. Ignoring without understanding is foolishness. Listening, analyzing, and then deciding. That's intelligence. How to practice intelligent listening. Silence your inner critic. Don't judge what someone says before they finish. Ask questions. Instead of rebutting, try, what made you think that way? Or can you explain further? Learn even from those you disagree with. Often, the best lessons come from ideas that challenge your certainties. Practice listening to uncomfortable opinions. That's where growth happens. Listening is a daily choice every time you choose to listen instead of interrupt, reflect instead of react, welcome instead of withdraw. You're expanding your intelligence. You're training your brain to see further and your soul to connect deeper. Conclusion. Saying, I don't need to listen to others, shuts the door to unexpected lessons, growth, and evolution. True intelligence isn't about knowing everything, it's about knowing that every person can teach you something. Listen and you'll be heard. Learn and you'll be remembered. Connect and you'll go further. For making mistakes is shameful. Intelligent people see mistakes as opportunities for growth. This is one of modern society's most destructive beliefs. From childhood, we're conditioned to avoid mistakes at all costs. Schools punish errors. Perfectionist culture shames those who fail. Social media comparisons amplify our fear of not appearing flawless. But the truth, the raw, liberating, powerful truth, is that making mistakes isn't shameful. Making mistakes is inevitable. More importantly, making mistakes is necessary. Truly, intelligent people understand this. They don't run from mistakes, they extract wisdom from them. When examined with honesty and courage, mistakes become our greatest teachers. What appears as failure transforms into fertilizer for success. Mistakes aren't weakness, they're the path to mastery. Those who never make mistakes never try anything new, and those who don't try don't learn, don't grow, don't transform. The shame around mistakes is a mental block fueled by pride, fear, and ego. Thomas Edison, inventor of the light bulb, embodies this mindset. When asked about his 1,000+ failed attempts, he calmly responded, "I didn't fail, I just found 1,000 ways that don't work." This reveals the wisdom of someone who understood every mistake is a step toward success. Mistakes didn't diminish him, they strengthened him. Michael Jordan, considered basketball's greatest player, stated, "I've missed over 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over in my life. That's why I succeed." This is the key. Mistakes don't destroy success. Running from them, hiding them, denying them does. True failure lies not in stumbling, but in refusing to learn. Great minds who honored mistakes. Albert Einstein, physics genius, said, "A person who never made a mistake never tried anything new." He knew genius requires boldness, and all boldness carries risk. Fear of mistakes paralyzes. Accepting them liberates. J.K. Rowling, author of Harry Potter, was rejected by 12 publishers before succeeding. In her Harvard commencement speech, she shared, "Failure meant stripping away the inessential. It was through failure that I found my strength." She wasn't ashamed of failing. She used rejection's pain as leverage for her breakthrough. Elon Musk, among the world's most innovative entrepreneurs, declared, "Failure is an option. If you're not failing, you're not innovating enough." This isn't just philosophy, it's practice. At companies like SpaceX and Tesla, mistakes are documented, openly discussed, and transformed into collective learning. Why you need to make mistakes to grow. When you avoid mistakes for fear of judgment, you avoid transformation. You remain in your comfort zone, stagnant. But when you view mistakes as experiences teaching you something new, you become the protagonist of your own evolution. Mistakes teach you what doesn't work, show where you need to develop skills, make you more empathetic, patient, and wise, prepare you emotionally for greater future challenges. Those who can't accept mistakes will never lead, never reinvent themselves, never discover their true potential. How to turn mistakes into growth tools. Own your mistakes courageously. The first step is dropping victimhood and taking responsibility. This shows strength, not weakness. Analyze without self-punishment. Ask, what can I learn from this? Not why am I so stupid? Share honestly. When you openly discuss mistakes, you inspire others, building trust. Try again differently. Making mistakes isn't repeating, it's adjusting, improving, persisting with more awareness. Deconstruct perfection. Perfection is an imprisoning illusion. Continuous improvement is the real path. Mistakes as rites of passage. Everyone we admire, thinkers, athletes, leaders, scientists, artists, endured moments of pain, doubt, failure, and embarrassing mistakes. What sets them apart isn't always being right, but learning what went wrong. They understood mistakes are part of the journey. That mistakes are the price of daring. That mistakes are human, and when well utilized, divine. Conclusion. Making mistakes is shameful is a lie that needs burying. True wisdom isn't never stumbling, it's transforming every fall into learning. Intelligent people aren't ashamed of mistakes. They're ashamed of not trying. What about you? Will you keep pretending to be perfect or dare to be real and grow from every experience? To err is human. To learn from mistakes is intelligence. To grow through them, that's wisdom. That's not my problem. They understand collaboration and empathy are essential for solving challenges. This phrase, "that's not my problem," might seem practical, objective, even mature. But in reality, it reveals one of the biggest traps of the modern ego: detachment from the collective. It's the kind of thinking that isolates, limits someone's positive impact on the world, and over time undermines even personal success. Truly intelligent people know the world is interconnected. The greatest advancements, transformations, and legacies in history were born from collaboration, empathy, and commitment to something bigger than self-interest. Rejecting someone else's problem as if it has nothing to do with us is a sign of emotional and social short-sightedness. On the other hand, taking responsibility even when we don't have to is a mark of leadership, emotional intelligence, and greatness of character. The ego says, "Not my problem." Wisdom says, "If I can help, then it is my problem." Denying a collective problem, whether at work, in family, or society, doesn't make us more efficient. It just makes us less relevant. Empathy is an elevated form of intelligence. It allows us to feel another's pain and, more importantly, act on it. Collaboration springs from this awareness that individual well-being is fragile if the collective is in ruins. Examples of those who change the world by not ignoring others' problems. Nelson Mandela could have left apartheid for others to solve. After 27 years in prison, he instead carried the burden of an entire people. In doing so, he freed a nation and became a global symbol of compassion, justice, and leadership. Malala Yousafzai, at 15, was shot in the head for defending girls' education in Pakistan. She could have stayed silent, protected her own life, but she decided other girls' pain was hers too. Today, she's one of the most influential voices for equality. Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers, an American children's TV host, quietly demonstrated this power. He didn't have to address kids' emotional trauma during hard times, yet he deliberately tackled topics like death, racism, and violence with radical empathy. He knew listening and healing others' pain changes the world, one heart at a time. Philosophy, connection as the foundation of being. Philosopher Martin Buber said, "Humans only fully realize themselves in encounters with others." This means our fulfillment lies not in isolation, but in relationship. When we say, "That's not my problem," we sever the invisible thread connecting us to everything. Even Jean-Paul Sartre, who famously said, "Hell is other people," acknowledged freedom only matters when exercised in relation to others. Turning away from "not our problems" denies part of our humanity, and Confucius over 2,000 years ago taught, "No matter how busy you are, find time to care for others." Eastern wisdom has always seen collective balance as a reflection of individual harmony. In the corporate world, individualism is self-sabotage in business. The "not my problem" mindset destroys teams. An employee who refuses to help because "it's not in my job description" lacks vision. Meanwhile, those who step up, even when it's not their direct role, become indispensable. Companies like Google, Amazon, and Apple value collaborative, proactive professionals who tackle challenges across boundaries. The reason is clear: great ideas succeed when multiple talents unite. Empathy is the new power. Empathy is no longer just a nice virtue, it's a critical 21st century skill. Empathetic leaders connect better with teams. Empathetic professionals build stronger networks. Empathetic partners create lasting relationships. Barack Obama often emphasized in his speeches, empathy is a fundamental quality of leadership. He understood listening, understanding, and acting for others isn't weakness. It's political, emotional, and strategic intelligence. But what can I do? Change starts with small actions. When you see a coworker overwhelmed, offer help instead of looking away. When a friend is in crisis, pause to listen without judgment. When there's an issue in your street, school, or community, choose to engage, even if it's not your responsibility. Every time we choose to act, we become bridges, not walls, and that's the mark of people who change the world. Conclusion: "That's not my problem" builds invisible walls between people. And where there are walls, there's no growth, no learning, no evolution. Truly intelligent people know collaboration isn't about overloading yourself. It's about expanding. Helping others isn't weakness. It's shared strength. Caring isn't a waste of time. It's an investment in humanity. The world changes when more people ask, "What if it is my problem too?" 6. I'm better than everyone else. Emotional intelligence teaches that arrogance pushes people and opportunities away. Few phrases carry as much subtle poison as this one. I'm better than everyone else. It might not be said out loud, but it's heard in tone, posture, and that look of disdain. While it may appear as confidence or power, this mindset reveals a deep flaw in what's now considered one of modern intelligence's greatest virtues: emotional intelligence. In the real world, whether in business, relationships, or spiritual life, arrogance doesn't inspire. It repels, it builds barriers, sabotages partnerships, and drains even the brightest talent. The truth is simple and unchanging. No one grows in isolation, and no one stays at the top alone. Arrogance, the wolf in confidence's clothing. Many confuse arrogance with self-esteem. But the line is clear. Self-esteem is knowing your worth. Arrogance is needing to diminish others' worth to feel valuable. The arrogant person lives in the comparison trap. They feed on feeling superior. But this emotional diet is fragile because there will always be someone more skilled, experienced, or talented. And the arrogant ego can't handle that. The emotionally intelligent person doesn't compete. They collaborate. They understand greatness isn't about being better than others, but better than you were yesterday. Real-world examples of powerful humility. Barack Obama, as US President, was often seen seeking advice, admitting mistakes publicly, and crediting his team. His leadership was marked by humility, exactly what made him monumental. Keanu Reeves, among Hollywood's most admired actors, is praised for his simplicity and generosity. Despite fame and fortune, he rides the subway, helps strangers, and never boasts. He doesn't need to say he's better. His actions speak. Albert Einstein, history's greatest geniuses, said, "The more I learn, the more I realize how much I don't know." That's intellectual humility. True wisdom recognizes knowledge is infinite, and everyone has something to teach, even those below us socially. Philosophy, the mirror of others. Lao Tzu, Taoism's founder, taught, "The sage doesn't display himself, yet he shines, doesn't assert himself, yet he's respected." Socrates, Western philosophy's pillar, claimed, "I know that I know nothing," not as a catchphrase, but as a life principle. He understood true knowledge, virtue, and power spring from humility before existence's vastness. Jesus Christ, history's most influential figure, washed his disciples' feet. A radical act of humility in an era when kings demanded worship. This act still echoes because it showed real power lies in serving, not self-glory. In real life, arrogance costs dearly. Arrogant people lose opportunities by failing at teamwork, drive away partners. Investors, colleagues make mistakes from know-it-all syndrome. Worst of all, stop growing, believing they've peaked. Meanwhile, the humble never stop learning, build alliances, inspire trust. Thus reach higher, sustainable, respected positions in business. Bet on collaboration, not superiority. Organizational research shows humble leaders have more engaged, innovative, productive teams. Because humility makes space for others to grow. And when you let others shine, you don't dim your light, you multiply the light around you. Companies like Patagonia, Basecamp, and successful startups prioritize collaborative, flat cultures. There's no room for inflated egos, only open minds. Can I change? Yes, start by asking, do I listen more than I speak? Do I sincerely recognize others' merits? Do I care about those around me or just myself? When I'm wrong, do I admit it or make excuses? Answer honestly, and you're already practicing humility, and that alone is a sign of intelligence. Conclusion. I'm better than everyone else is a dangerous delusion, because the moment we believe we're the best, we stop learning, growing, connecting. True emotional intelligence isn't measured by status, but by valuing others, even when we have every reason to feel superior. Be great, but not to overshadow anyone. Be strong, but to protect, not dominate. Be brilliant, but without dimming others' light, because in the end, humility doesn't make you smaller, it makes you greater in the eyes that truly matter. I won't change my mind, no matter what anyone says. Mental flexibility is a sign of intelligence, not stubbornness. This phrase, though sometimes mistaken for strength or conviction, contains a dangerous trap: mental rigidity. In a world that changes every second, new discoveries, new technologies, new ways of living, thinking, and feeling, clinging to an idea just because it was your first one is like choosing to stand still in a flowing river. You'll be swept away by the current of reality. Truly intelligent people know this. They understand that changing your mind isn't weakness, it's evolution. It's a sign of intellectual humility, emotional courage, and practical wisdom. Why is it so hard to change our minds? The human brain has a mechanism called confirmation bias. Once we believe something, we tend to seek only evidence that supports that belief and ignore anything that contradicts it. It's a mental shortcut, useful in some situations, but deadly in others. This cognitive stubbornness has started wars, bankrupted companies, destroyed relationships, and blocked countless opportunities for personal and collective growth. That's why mental flexibility is one of the 21st century's most valuable skills. Those who can change their minds change the world. Jeff Bezos, Amazon's founder, said this about his most successful executives. The smartest people I know are constantly revising their opinions. They're open-minded, question assumptions, and change course when needed. This is one of innovation's secrets. Amazon became an empire not through stubbornness, but adaptability. The same goes for Elon Musk, who in many interviews admits changing his views when presented with new data, even when it contradicts his initial ideas. Nelson Mandela, after 27 years in prison, could have maintained hatred and revenge as his compass. But he chose to change his mind. Instead of retaliation, he opted for forgiveness and peace-building. This act of moral and emotional flexibility became one of the 20th century's greatest leadership milestones. Philosophers knew the flexible mind is the strong mind. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, wrote, "Just because something is old doesn't mean it should last forever. Wisdom is knowing when to let go." For him, clinging to outdated ideas is the fastest path to stagnation. John Maynard Keynes, the economist who revolutionized economic theory, said, "When the facts change, I change my mind." What do you do? This line is a slap to intellectual arrogance. Confucius, master of Eastern wisdom, taught, "Only fools cling to their words, even after realizing they're wrong." In real life, flexibility saves relationships and opportunities. Think of how many friendships ended over pride. How many couples broke up because someone refused to yield, listen, reconsider? Think of how many promising professionals lost positions, clients, or businesses because they wouldn't update their thinking or recognize new trends. On the other hand, open-minded people learn quickly, make better decisions, build bridges instead of walls, grow even in chaos. Mental flexibility doesn't mean being indecisive or fickle. It means knowing how to listen, reflect, and, when necessary, wisely adjust. Of course, a mastery exercise, wise doubt, when used well, isn't an obstacle. It's a gateway. Questioning your own certainties can open paths to great discoveries. Absolute certainty closes doors. It's the ego's gilded prison. Become someone who can say, "I'd never considered that perspective." You're right. I've changed my mind. Thank you for showing me what I couldn't see. Saying these things doesn't diminish you. It elevates you. It shows you're free. Because those enslaved to their own opinions can never be truly intelligent. Historical examples. Who stubbornly lost Kodak invented the digital camera, but refused to invest in it, fearing it would cannibalize film sales. Result, left behind. Blockbuster had the chance to buy Netflix, laughed at the idea. Result, vanished. These companies had talent, infrastructure, money. What they lacked was flexible thinking. They lacked the courage to say, maybe we're wrong. Let's listen, think, adapt. How to practice mental flexibility in real life. Question your certainties. Not to destroy them, but to strengthen them with real foundations. Seek feedback. Listen to people who think differently, even if it's uncomfortable. Admit mistakes quickly. Made a wrong call. Acknowledge, learn, correct. Read opposing views. If you believe something, read the counter-arguments. This will either strengthen or refine your perspective. Value change as a sign of growth, not weakness. Conclusion. I won't change my mind, no matter what anyone says. Seems strong, but reveals fear. Fear of being wrong. Fear of appearing weak. Fear of losing control. But true power isn't standing unshaken against new evidence. It's knowing when and how to evolve. The flexible mind is like bamboo. It bends with the wind, but doesn't break in the storm. If you want to grow, inspire, lead, love, and transform, don't harden, expand. Rigidity might make you right for a while, but flexibility gives you wisdom for a lifetime. 8. Asking questions is a sign of weakness. In reality, questioning is the foundation of learning and innovation. This phrase, though common, represents one of the most insidious forms of self-sabotage to human intelligence and growth. It carries poison disguised as pride, the fear of appearing incapable, of revealing ignorance, or losing authority by admitting what we don't know. But here's the naked truth. Those who don't ask don't learn, and those who don't learn stagnate. Intelligent people aren't afraid to ask questions, they're afraid of remaining ignorant. Why are people ashamed to ask? We live in a culture that often confuses knowledge with status and doubt with weakness. From childhood, we're taught to compete to show what we know and hide what we don't. But this creates a destructive cycle. The more we pretend to know, the less we learn. And the less we learn, the more insecure we become. The courage to ask is therefore an act of strength, not weakness. Science was born from a question. Every innovation, every scientific discovery, every human advancement began with a single spark. A question. Isaac Newton saw an apple fall and asked, "Why does it fall down instead of sideways?" That question birthed the theory of gravity. Albert Einstein didn't create the theory of relativity by knowing more than others, but by questioning what everyone accepted as fact. He said, "The important thing is never to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing." Questioning is the fuel of genius. The geniuses who asked questions, Socrates, father of Western philosophy, never wrote a single line. His method was simple. Ask questions. He believed that through questioning, people could discover profound truths for themselves. His famous Socratic method invited reflection, humility, and sincere pursuit of wisdom. Socrates said, "I know that I know nothing," and thus became one of history's wisest men. Steve Jobs, Apple's visionary founder, was known for obsessive questioning. Why do computers have to be ugly? Why can't we put 1,000 songs in our pocket? What if we created a phone that was also an iPod? These questions changed the world. Oprah Winfrey, one of history's greatest communicators, built her career by asking. Her ability to listen, question with empathy, and delve into people's stories made her legendary. Asking created connection. Asking healed. Asking transformed. Questioning is the foundation of leadership. True leaders don't pretend to know everything. They ask more than they declare. Simon Sinek, author of Start With Why, teaches that the best companies, products, and movements begin when someone asks, "Why do we do what we do?" Great leaders aren't afraid of vulnerability. They know real power lies in seeking truth, not appearing invincible. Ray Dalio, billionaire founder of Bridgewater Associates, states in Principles that a culture of questioning, where anyone can ask anything, is essential for organizational success. He says, intellectual humility, the willingness to ask and learn, is more important than having all the answers. Children know better than adults. Children learn more in their first few years than at any other time. Know why? Because they never stop asking, why is the sky blue? Why do I have to sleep? Why is it like this? This innate curiosity is the engine of learning, but as we grow, we're silenced. Be quiet, don't interrupt, don't ask that. Gradually, we trade curiosity for appearances, the pursuit of knowing for pretending we already know. The price of prideful silence. How many opportunities are lost by not asking? An unasked question leading to critical errors, a question not posed that could have forged important connections. Fear of appearing weak, making you seem disengaged. Ultimately, refusing to ask out of pride is choosing willful ignorance. And that is true weakness. How to reclaim the art of asking. Be deliberately curious. Cultivate the desire to understand, not just respond. Allow yourself not to know. This creates space for real learning. Create safe spaces for questions. Be someone who encourages inquiry, not punishes doubt. Value those who ask. At work, home, in relationships, genuine questions build bridges. Remember, the right question is worth more than 1,000 wrong answers. The choice is yours. You can keep saying, I already know. I don't need to ask. Better to stay silent than look foolish, or choose the humility that transforms. I want to understand better. Can you explain? I'm not sure about this. What do you think? What if we tried another way? Have you considered this? These questions open doors, forge connections, reveal invisible paths to those pretending to have all the answers. Conclusion. Asking questions is a sign of weakness. No point asking is a sign of greatness. It distinguishes the wise from the arrogant, the eternal learner from the disguised ignorant, the creator from the repeater. Questions begin transformation. And every time you fear asking, remember this. Those who ask grow. Those who pretend to know merely hide. Do you want to grow or just appear intelligent? This is how it's always been done. Why change it? Brilliant minds seek improvement and adaptation. Few phrases are as dangerous to progress as this one. It carries a false sense of security, a hidden resistance to the new, and often a fear of change disguised as practicality. When someone says, this is how it's always been done, what they're really saying is, I'm afraid to try something new. I'm afraid to fail. I'm afraid to lose control. But the world doesn't reward those who stay comfortable. It rewards those who evolve, adapt, and dare to challenge the status quo. Resistance to change is natural, but limiting. The human brain has been programmed for millennia to seek safety. The familiar feels secure, the new feels threatening. But if we want to grow, we must leave comfort behind and enter the field of improvement. The phrase, we've always done it this way, is the hallmark of companies that went bankrupt, leaders who lost relevance, professionals left behind. It's the denial of innovation, the opposite of evolution. Innovation begins with an uncomfortable question. What if we did it differently? Every revolution in science, art, technology, spirituality began when someone dared to break the cycle of this is how it's always been done. Galileo Galilei challenged centuries of belief by declaring the earth revolved around the sun. He was persecuted for it, yet today we call him the father of modern science. Martin Luther King Jr. confronted institutionalized racism by saying, just because things have always been this way doesn't mean they must remain this way. Elon Musk rejected the traditional automotive model. Instead of, "This is how it's always been done," he created Tesla with a vision of an electric, sustainable future. Today, the entire industry scrambles to catch up. The world's greatest companies changed everything. Apple, under Steve Jobs, transformed how we use technology. He asked, "What if computers were beautiful, intuitive, and personal?" Netflix went from mailing DVDs to global streaming, destroying Blockbuster's business model that insisted, "We've always worked this way. Why change?" A real-world example of how this phrase killed an empire. Amazon's Jeff Bezos reinvented shopping. He said, "Our job is to constantly reinvent ourselves." Great thinkers have always championed evolution. Charles Darwin didn't say the strongest survive, but those who adapt best. Leonardo da Vinci, Renaissance genius, was perpetually dissatisfied with the way things are. He declared, "Knowledge is born from curiosity, and curiosity is incompatible with stagnation." Heraclitus, Greek philosopher, wrote, "Nothing is permanent except change. Those clinging to the known inevitably get left behind." Change isn't just possible, it's necessary. We often hear, "In my day, things were different." This worked for years. Why change it? We're used to it this way, but familiarity doesn't equal excellence. Often we follow paths simply by inertia. True intelligence means pausing, reflecting, and adjusting course. Those who rejected no reason to change. Muhammad Yunus, microcredit pioneer, revolutionized poverty alleviation by asking, "What if banks helped the poor instead of just the rich?" He won the Nobel Peace Prize. Malala Yousafzai, facing oppression, demanded, "Why can't girls go to school?" She rejected the Taliban's "This is how it's always been," inspiring global education reform. How to break the autopilot habit. Question every process. Ask, "Is this still the best way?" Listen to new voices. Innovation usually comes from the edges, not the center. Encourage curiosity. Cultivate why and what if. Test new ideas small scale. Fear of change stems from fear of failure. Reduce risk, learn fast, be willing to unlearn. Great transformations begin when we abandon old certainties. Conclusion: this is how it's always been done. Why change it? This phrase is the epitaph of creativity, the brake on progress. The comfortable shelter of mediocrity. Brilliant minds aren't satisfied with what is. They envision what could be. They don't accept the world as it is, they recreate it. So next time you hear or think this phrase, stop. Ask yourself, could there be a better way? And if so, why not try? The future belongs to the restless, to those who refuse to accept. This is how it's always been done. 10. I don't have time for nonsense like empathy. Intelligence without empathy becomes manipulation. Truly wise people value human connections. In a world where productivity and competition are the most valued currencies, it's easy to encounter the phrase, "I don't have time for nonsense like empathy." To many, empathy seems like a weakness, an unnecessary distraction in the relentless pursuit of success. But this mindset isn't just wrong, it's dangerous. Intelligence without empathy isn't a virtue, it's manipulation. The ability to genuinely understand and connect with others is what truly makes a person wise and successful, both personally and professionally. The flaw in "I don't have time for empathy." The phrase "I don't have time for nonsense like empathy" hides a mistaken belief that emotional intelligence and the ability to connect with others are peripheral, irrelevant, or even detrimental to success. This thinking reflects a limited and dehumanized view of life and work. Empathy isn't a weakness, it's a fundamental strength that drives human relationships, effective collaboration, and creative problem solving. When someone says, "I don't have Time for empathy. What they're really saying is, I'd rather be efficient than understanding, or I prefer quick results over deep relationships. While these thoughts might seem pragmatic at first glance, they underestimate the power of human connection, the real engine of sustainable progress and lasting social change. Empathy, the foundation of authentic relationships and real influence. Empathy is the ability to understand and share another person's feelings. This skill goes beyond just hearing words. It's about sensing emotions, recognizing needs, and responding in ways that acknowledge their humanity. It's what builds trust and fosters collaboration. Great leaders, innovators, and thinkers have always understood empathy's importance. Steve Jobs, known for his visionary spirit, also inspired through emotional connection. He didn't just lead Apple with technical brilliance. He created an environment where people felt motivated to follow his vision because he understood human needs and how technology could serve them. Nelson Mandela mastered empathy. As a political prisoner and later as South Africa's president, he showed that true leadership means listening to others, understanding their pain, and acting with compassion. His empathy wasn't just kindness, it was a strategy that healed a divided nation. Intelligence without empathy, a path to manipulation. Without empathy, intelligence becomes an empty tool, one used to manipulate rather than solve problems. Leaders lacking empathy create shallow relationships where people are seen as resources to exploit, not humans to respect. Psychologist Daniel Goleman, in his studies on emotional intelligence, emphasizes that empathy is key to successful relationships. Its absence breeds toxic workplaces and social divisions, where manipulation becomes the norm. Without empathy, communication fails and collaboration becomes impossible. The power of empathy in building a better world. Empathy doesn't just improve teamwork and conflict resolution. It shapes collective behavior and social progress. Philosophers and thinkers have long highlighted its importance. Confucius, never do to others what you wouldn't want done to you. Mahatma Gandhi, the true measure of any society is how it treats its most vulnerable members. Empathy lets us act with compassion and justice, creating a positive impact on everyone around us. Empathy as a tool for personal and professional growth. Truly wise people know growth requires investing in human connections. Empathy isn't just a moral virtue, it's a practical skill that enhances professional and personal life. Empathetic leaders inspire loyalty, engagement, and innovation. Professionals who practice empathy understand clients better, build stronger solutions, and create reliable support networks. Brené Brown, researcher on courage and vulnerability, notes that empathy is essential for authentic leadership. It helps us listen, learn, and transform interactions into enriching experiences for everyone involved. Empathy in action, real examples. Barack Obama. As president, he listened to diverse communities, workers, minorities, crafting inclusive policies, and uniting the country during crises. Oprah Winfrey. Her interviews make people feel seen and heard, making her one of the world's most effective communicators. Greta Thunberg. Her climate activism reflects deep empathy for future generations, fighting for collective well-being. How to practice empathy daily? Listen actively, without judgment or interruption. Show genuine interest. Put yourself in others' shoes. Imagine their struggles, fears, and hopes. Show compassion. Empathy isn't just understanding, it's acting with kindness and support. Develop emotional intelligence. Self-awareness helps. You better handle others' feelings. Conclusion. I don't have time for nonsense. Like empathy reflects a shallow view of intelligence and success. True wisdom recognizes that human connections aren't distractions. They're the foundation of a fulfilling life and effective work. Truly intelligent people In life and business, no, empathy is essential for growth. Without it, intelligence becomes a tool for manipulation, losing the power to build a better future for all. As Albert Einstein said, the true measure of intelligence is the ability to change. And to change, we must understand others. Only then can we create a world where intelligence and empathy walk together, leading us to a more human, connected future. Now that you've reflected on these ideas, how can they transform your life? Continuous learning, humility, mental flexibility, and empathy are pillars of deeper understanding and success. What can you change today to grow emotionally and intellectually? Start now. Question your assumptions, seek new perspectives, and above all, value human connections. If this resonated with you, like, share, and subscribe for more insights to transform your life. Together, we can walk a path of constant growth. The brightest minds aren't those locked in their certainties, but those courageous enough to question, adapt, and connect. True intelligence means being humble, empathetic, and flexible. Keep evolving with us and learn how to integrate these principles into your life. A fulfilling life begins when we open ourselves to learning and genuine connections.